Oh, hello. Where am I? Hello? There I am. Hello, good morning. How is everybody today? Good morning, good morning. Hello, Lupa. How are you? Here we are, feeling all angelic this morning. Oh, yeah. You just got woken up and now you're tired. Oh, well, hopefully this will be a gentle way to wake up this morning. You can fill your mind with angelic wings and things. Yes. Hello, Fiona. Good morning, Susanna. Wonderful to see you. Hello, those just coming in. Now, hopefully, we're all ready for some angels. Let me bring up our thing here. We'll see where we're going today. Here we go. So, I'm sure most of you have heard of angels. I mean, they're kind of popular. I suppose they're very popular in religion. They're definitely a big idea. For those of you who are new, what we do in these philosophy webinars, we have them every other week, every fortnight, and we change between famous philosophers. Last time we did Plato, next time Aristotle, and big ideas, which are things that come from philosophy, religion, spirituality stuff. I don't know. It's always a bit of a grab bag of things. But today we're looking at angels, and we're going to think about what an angel is, what it does, how they're represented in some different religions. And I've decided to stick today with Western angels. We're not going to go into angelic type beings in Hinduism or Sikhism. Instead, we're going to keep it to the West because I just don't know how I'd fit it all in otherwise. So we're going to have a look at Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Zoroastrianism, which chronologically should come before, but I decided to put it after. And then we're going to ask some big philosophical questions about angels. The question of free will, the question of what happens when angels go bad, and modern representations and how they, I don't know, are different from traditional religious representations. Good morning, Brea. Lovely to see you. What was that noise? That's a good question, Fiona. That was a bad angel. I can't even do it again, I don't think. I must have been possessed momentarily by a demon. It happens. I mean, you know, we've all got our crosses to bear. So we're starting today with this picture of an angel, probably a typical angel, or what we would think of as a typical angel. As we'll see, it might not be particularly accurate. But the first thing I suppose we should mention is that angels don't really have a gender. Gender isn't something that angels have, although in all of our traditions, in at least Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they are always referred to as male. But as we'll discover, they're not technically male. There you go. Can everyone see the messages? That's a good question. Let's see. It might be... No, I think hosts and panelists, I'm the host, and I think in theory I could have panelists who are people who can sort of be hosts too. So I think we're all right. Yeah. And Fiona says we can't see it. So there. Thank you, Fiona. You're all good. You're safe in your anonymity until I tell everyone your name. I mean, that's kind of how I roll. All right. So let's start with Judaism. Here we go. So in Judaism, angels are pretty interesting, but in the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, as the Christians would call it, angels are mentioned quite a lot, but it's vague. It's really tricky to actually work out what an angel is. It's later in history that angels really start to get defined. But we do meet them right at the very start of the Bible. They're there during creation. They are there after creation. And here's a nice quote from Genesis 6:4. So the first book of the Bible. This is just before we get the Noah stuff, with the ark and the animals and all that stuff. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Loop says the Nephilim are in a book series like that. That's cool. And also afterward. So they were there then and later. That's a bit vague, though. Afterward, are they still here? Not sure. When the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them, they were the heroes of old, men of renown. So that tells us that angels can interact with people. We're told in Genesis that some angels, the sons of God, they come down from heaven and they fall in love with human women and they have babies with them. And those babies are the Nephilim, perhaps, or maybe it's vague enough and there's so many interpretations that maybe the Nephilim themselves are angels. But one of the more interesting interpretations I have read about the Nephilim is that they may well be, they're described here as the heroes of old, men of renown, and they've been connected to figures from the past before the Jews came along. People like Gilgamesh, if you know the story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu from the Sumerian legends. Gilgamesh is said to be this guy who's, 8 meters tall, something like that. Absolutely ripped, big hairy beard, muscles that can rip your arms off. He's just a monster of a man. And the Jewish people equate heroes like that with the Nephilim. So they're not demigods, because in Judaism, there is only one God. You can't have demigods. Heracles would also fit into this, or Hercules with his Roman name. But these must be the Nephilim, the people who are half God, half human. Yes. Daniel says like Jotun or Titans. Yeah, I suppose so. Could be something like that. These big, larger than life dudes with special powers. They're a mix of angel and mortal. But it doesn't go into massive description on what angels look like or where they come from. It just tells us that they are the servants of God, that they do God's bidding, that they are good. Angels are good things. And we get another cool interaction a little bit later in the Old Testament, in the Torah, where Jacob wrestles with an angel. Now, Jacob is like a important figure in Judaism. He's a human man. And the story goes that one day he's wandering around, doing his thing, and he comes across a man, just a human man, doesn't look like anything special. And the man challenges Jacob to a wrestle. And so they start wrestling. And they wrestle a lot. They wrestle all night long, just rolling around on the floor, grabbing each other, throwing each other, twisting each other, wrestling, because why not? I don't know, maybe back in those days, meeting strangers on the road and just wrestling with them was normal. I don't know. Now, during the wrestling match, the mystery human, yes, Fiona, literal wrestling, thank you. During the wrestling match, the mysterious man puts Jacob's thigh out of its socket. They're really going for it. So his thigh pops out. But Jacob won't give up. He won't stop wrestling until morning comes. He will not let go of the angel. I am definitely sure. And so there they are. The sun's coming up. These two guys, they've been rolling around the floor all night. They're both of some kind of superhuman strength. There's Jacob with his thigh out of joint, just sort of wrapped around this angel. And the angel says, look, we've got to stop doing this. Can you just give up? And Jacob says, no, I'm not letting go of you until you bless me. I want you to bless me. And the figure, who is, of course, an angel, we know that, says, okay, I will bless you. Your name is no longer Jacob, it is now Israel, Israel, and you are blessed by God. Good fight, or something like that. And then, and only then, will Jacob let go of the angel. I mean, it sounds like fun, but that tells us that angels aren't incredibly superhuman. You know, they're not, at least in this particular version, they're not better than people. They're a different kind of creature. Yeah, Fiona, you do need to to readjust. It was pretty easy to get blessed in those days, says Brea. Maybe. I mean, it seems strange, doesn't it? To me, at least, it seems strange. You know, you want to be blessed by God. What's the way to do it? Is to wrestle his angels. But, well, it definitely worked for Jacob. And of course, Israel, you know, blessed by God, is a pretty important figure. Now, there are some people who look at the vagueness of angels in the Old Testament and in the Bible in general, not just the Jewish portion, but the Christian portion too, and say, well, why is it that we don't get better descriptions? Later on in Quran, in Islam, we see much better descriptions. But with Judaism, it's all left a little bit vague. The word angel isn't even used that often. In our quote up here, it's the sons of God, and we have to interpret that to be angels. And the sons of God is a what's it called? I don't know. A name that is only given 6 times in the whole of the Torah, mostly in the book of Job, when we're talking about God and his angels as the sons of God. But people think that maybe this is the cross between a polytheism into monotheism, Judaism being the first of the Abrahamic religions to believe in one God. And they come from a culture, and the cultures around them for another 1,000 years will mainly be polytheistic, which means they have more than one God in them. So you'd have the God of wine, and the God of war, and the God of wisdom, and the God of love, and all that kind of stuff. But Judaism didn't have that. They just had the one God. So maybe these angels are a kind of way of explaining different elements of God without having to say that there is more than one God. You can have your cake and eat it. You can have one God, and then you can have these other things which are kind of holy and spiritual, but not exactly other gods to take God's place. Maybe. Or maybe angels is just real, and you know, the Torah is telling it like it is. I don't know. I haven't met an angel myself, not yet. So when we come to Christianity, things start to get more developed, maybe. And to be fair, with Judaism, things start to get more developed later on in their history too. They start to talk about different types of angels, specific angels by name. And with Christianity, right in the early days, one of St. Paul's disciples, one of the very first Christians, he comes up with the 9 types of angel, which are, yeah, well, these things here. And they're maybe not the kind of angels that we think of today, especially the cherubim. Lupa says she likes the picture of the angel there. Yeah, it is a cool angel, isn't it? I love its little goatee feet. So we've got 9 different types, and they rank from the highest to the lowest. So the very top, the best you can be as an angel, is a seraphim. Now the seraphim are, or seraph is a singular, so one seraph, multiple seraphim. Oh, that's nice. What if all the angels are stars? That would be nice, wouldn't it? And I suppose they could be, or if the stars are angels. I don't know. I mean, they're all capable of changing form, or at least we think they are. But their natural forms, when they are with God, is different to the forms that we might see them in. At least that's the Christian idea. So the seraphim are creatures of fire. They are so powerful that to be near one would kind of burn your face off. Just, you know, they're just another level of cosmic awesomeness. They have 6 wings each. So we usually think of angels as having 2 wings, one on each side. Seraphim have the 6, as do other things too. Sometimes the cherubim are described as having 4 or 6. Fiona says this is greedy to have 6 wings. Wait until we see the angel Jibril. He has many more wings than that. They're the caretakers of God. The seraphim are the creatures that are literally with God on his throne, ruling over the universe. They're like really cool. Fiona says they should share. No, it's not like they took wings from other angels. It's not like they had 2 of their own and they stole 4. They just naturally have 6 wings. Like I'm trying to think of a creature that has 6 wings. I don't know. Are there creatures with 6 wings? I don't know. So our next rank down are the cherubim, or cherubim, which are the strangest of the angels, maybe. They're supposed to have 4 faces, one of an ox, one of a lion, one of a man, and one of an eagle, to represent the 4 important classes of creature. So man represents humans, lions represent wild animals, ox represents domestic animals, so cows, horses, sheep, that kind of thing, and then eagles represent birds. Doesn't have a bug face, which is a shame, but I suppose 4 heads is enough, really. You don't need more than 4 heads, I guess. Fiona says that the angel should share with us so we can have wings too. Maybe we do have wings. Yeah, maybe they're just wings of the mind. That makes no sense. I don't know. Breya would like bug heads. Now, the cherubim also are supposed to have 6 wings or 4 wings, depending on the version we look at. And those wings are supposed to be covered in eyes so they can see in all directions. These are not normal wings. They have the bodies of lions and the feet of goats or cattle, so hooved feet. They are a bit creepy. They're supposed to have been the protectors of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. So not sure what went wrong there. They're just insane amounts of cosmic power. They are the second most powerful type of angel. Orthodox Christians today, when they have their Eucharist, when they have their the bread and the wine, they will sing the song of the cherubim before the bread and wine is brought out to them. A beautiful hymn, usually in Greek or Russian, because that's where most Orthodox Christians live. And it's a beautiful song about being a cherubim. The humans, they sing about themselves as cherubim, and they don't, though, have 4 heads and lots of wings. It's like spiritually a cherubim, I guess. Yeah. We then have the thrones, who are the next level of angel, and these are the judges. When God wants something judged, or when he makes a judgment, the thrones are the angels that go out and see that justice is done. So I imagine that they're quite stern creatures, very much, what would we call them? Lawyers, stern lawyer angels who don't take any messing about. Then we get to like the second circle of angels. So those 3 are in the first tier. They are the best. Then we have the second tier, class 2 angels. The first of those are the dominions. These are the bosses of the other angels. Further down, they're not the bosses of the cherubim, but their job is to have dominion over the others. They're I imagine them flying around with ties on, maybe a bit like Boss Baby, but an angel. That would be quite cool. So something like that. We've then got the virtues, who I think might be my favorite. These are elemental angels that control and protect nature. So you'd have angels looking after the rivers and the mountains and the trees and the oceans and the animals and all that kind of stuff to make sure that the planet works as it should, that the ecosystems are correct and that the planet isn't, heating up at an alarming rate. They're pretty cool. I like the idea of, they're kind of like druid angels or something. In my head, they're covered in leaves and they have owls on their shoulder. I reckon that's what a virtue's like. Prayer suggests they might not be doing the best job at the moment. It's all part of God's plan. Probably. Well, it would have to be if you're a Christian anyway. We've then got our powers. These are the guys who fight against evil. If there's a demon, if there's a witch, if there's a terrible spirit, these powers are the only angels with the power to stop them. Yeah, so your power, it's weird having the name power, but the powers can come down and they can entrap demons, they can lock them up, they can nullify them, they can punch a witch in the face, or whatever needs doing. They are the fighters against evil. Very good to have on your side. Oh no, Breyer thinks we may have burned all the angels' witches. No, we made a terrible mistake. Oh, Looper, that's dark too. Oh no, oh no. So then we come down to tier 3. Fiona is supporting witches now. Who says witches are bad? Well, the Bible says that witches are bad. The Bible says that they're really naughty. They turn people into frogs. And they consort with the devil, who is, of course, also an angel, but more on that later. Looper says, the Bible says that lots of things are bad, though. That's true. But witches are, everyone thinks witches are bad, don't they? Witches, they're always like killing cows and poisoning people's milk, and they have warts. They have warts. Oh, okay. I don't. No, Looper says that her mum's friend is a witch and they're awesome. I have met some pretty cool witches in my time, actually, but just don't tell the angels that. I do not want to have to wrestle with a power all night, because I would lose. Even if it was a rubbish power, I would still lose. I haven't got the stamina. Yeah. No, Bray, I'm not saying we should burn ugly women. I'm saying that the powers will deal with the ugly women. Yeah, it's their job. Oh, I've dug myself into a hole now. I don't mean it. So our third class of angels here, we have principalities. Now, they are the protectors of nations or groups, whole churches. So I assume there would be a principality who is attached to the UK, and another principality that's attached to the USA, and one for Russia, and all that kind of stuff. They are the ones that are trying to protect large groups of people as communities, which is quite cool. Breyer says that Aziraphale is a principality. That's very cool. I don't know who Aziraphale is, but that sounds good. From Good Omens, of course. Yes, that's true. Yes, he's supposed to be a principality, isn't he? So those are kind of powerful ones in terms, our last 3 groups here are the ones that really interact with humans. Humans don't bump into a cherubim very often, or a seraphim. The seraphim are busy with God. The powers are out there invisibly fighting demons the whole time, and slightly ugly women. But our last group are the ones that we might come into contact with in some way. So archangels, these are a bit confusing, because depending on the different type of Christianity or the different, time that people are writing in the archangels, their role, it changes about. We don't really see them come from the Bible so much, although their names are from the Bible. So they're usually seen as the 4 most important angels that humans will interact with. Yeah. So I'll make this picture a bit bigger here. Yes, I like this picture. It's very cool. Here we are. Ooh. It's not a particularly Christian picture, but I do like it. So we've got Uriel of clarity and vision, at least in some ideas. We've got the Archangel Michael, who is the protector, usually shown as blue, usually with a sword, although they don't have their weapons in this one. If you're in a battle and you need a bit of godly intervention, it's Michael who will come down and just cut your enemies to pieces. So that's useful. Now, if you are on the wrong side of a battle, maybe, and you have been cut to pieces, then you want the Archangel Raphael, who is the healer. Oh. And then we have the Archangel Gabriel, who is probably the most famous of angels. He is the messenger, the one who God sends down to give the really important messages to humans. Some of those messages being Mary, you're going to have a baby. You got to call it Jesus. And Mary, you've had a baby, but now you need to run away to Egypt because someone's trying to kill your baby. It's that kind of important message that Gabriel brings down. Now, these archangels, they're not always just used by Christian people. When I was younger, I once had Reiki healing by a woman who was taking her power from the archangels. There we are. Now, this is true. Lupa says, how come Gabriel is usually referred to as an angel Gabriel rather than the archangel Gabriel? And it's a bit of a weird one. In some cases, Gabriel is described as a seraphim or a cherubim. So it's almost as if we're not quite sure what he is. But he often fits in with the 4 archangels, even though, maybe technically he's not. I suppose that's the problem where you take this system of 9 and you attach it to an earlier thing. The guy who did this, Philos, he came up with these 9. But he was working from the old Jewish texts, which weren't very good at explaining the 9 because they hadn't come up with that themselves. So it's all kind of fit in strangely. Yeah. But Gabriel, when I had my Reiki healing, I was given, so says the Reiki healer, I was given the cloak of Archangel Michael, which I still wear to this day. It is invisible to you, and to be honest, to me, but it is a blue cloak which keeps me safe and protected. So that seems quite nice. I quite like the idea, even though I'm not quite sure I believe the idea. I do like having the cloak of an archangel. Yeah, I definitely want to keep that. Yeah, could come in handy. So now at the bottom, we have the standard angels. Now, the word angel just means messenger. That's where we get the words like evangelical from, messengers of religion. So the angels, they're the lowest, but they're the ones that we see the most. They often look like people. So they, gone are the crazy amounts of wings or wings with eyes on or anything like that. You'll usually see them just as a human. Go back to our story of Jacob and the wrestling angel. We're not told what that angel's name is or what rank it is. There are people who think maybe it was the angel Gabriel or maybe it was something else. We don't really know. Jacob asks it its name and it tells him that it's not going to tell him. So it just keeps it a secret. But it could well be, or the chances are, it's one of these just standard angels. They look like people. They talk like people. They come to you with important messages from God, and they can also be personal protectors. So if you've heard the phrase guardian angel, then that would be one of the lower ranks. If the principalities are protecting whole nations and the archangels are flying around, doing the big epic stuff, your guardian angels are kind of there to look after you individually, personally, which means there must be quite a lot of them. How do you tell who's an angel? That's a good question. Maybe you should just ask everyone. I mean, angels are creatures of honesty, aren't they? They can't lie to you. So if you ask everyone you know, are you an angel? And they say no, then they must not be an angel. But if they say yes, then they must be an angel, maybe. But if they say they won't tell you, then they must be an angel. Yeah, so yeah, it could be a person lying and saying they are an angel. That's true. People can lie. That's the problem, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe if you, right, okay. Usually people like me in particular, if someone tickles me, I really hate it. And so if you want information, you just tickle me and I tell you. So if you tickle everyone you know, a good tickling, then maybe they'll come out with the truth. They'll be giggling and they'll be like, yes, okay, I'm an angel. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how it works. So 9 different ranks of angel coming from top to bottom. And we'll come back to the Christian version of angels in a bit, because that's where our real questions of philosophy come in, maybe. But let's visit Islam briefly as well, because Islam is a religion that in some ways is a development of or from the Muslim perspective, it is the true revelation of the stuff that we've just looked at. Oh no, Danielle says that maybe angels are immune to tickles. That would be a real problem. Maybe tickle everyone you know, and if they're not ticklish, they must be an angel. Who created the idea of 9 angels? It was, I think, it was Philos, or no, I think it was Pseudo-Dionysus, perhaps, because what we know is that the person who came up with the angel hierarchy was one of the pupils of Paul. So one of the very first Christians on the planet came up with that. So it's an idea as old as Christianity by maybe a couple of years. Yeah, something like that. Brea's mum is an angel. Sorted. Proven. Done. Now, when we come to Islam, the angels are there because it's like a development or a retelling or a, the truth, depending on how you look at it. They have many different similar characteristics to Judaism and Christianity. The same prophets, the same spiritual creatures and things like that. There are, of course, differences in exactly the nature of these different things, but there are also similarities. And probably the most famous angel in Islam is the angel Jibril, who is the same as the angel Gabriel in Christianity. That's just the Arabic sort of name. I hate it when it does that. Don't do that. Stop. Yeah. So that was my phone. It was like blows a little trumpet when I get an email, which is unnecessary. Do. Our angels, the angel Jibril is the start of the religion of Islam. The story goes that Muhammad, may peace be upon him, the original prophet of Islam, or at least the final prophet of Islam, he finds out about the religion. And in fact, he is told the words of the Quran in this cave, the cave of Hira, just above the city of Mecca. Now, Muhammad, may peace be upon him, he goes up to the mountain, and there in a cave, he is approached by the angel Jibril. And he's approached by the angel Jibril many times. The first time they meet, the angel comes in, and he's roughly human size, but he's kind of haloed by light, blinding light. And he roars with a voice that is so terrifying that it makes Muhammad, may peace be upon him, shiver and quake. And, it's just a terrible thing. He says in the Quran that it is like hearing the tolling of bells in your brain. You don't hear the words, but you get the meaning. This terrible, like, head-splitting sound. And Jibril grabs hold of Muhammad, may peace be upon him, and he screams, recite, which means, you must repeat after me, basically. And then he goes on to scream the words of the Quran into the Prophet's face, into the Prophet's brain. And the Prophet then comes out of the cave and runs down back to Mecca and gets his cousin to write down the words that have been imprinted on his brain. But he doesn't do it just the once. He keeps on returning to the cave and meeting Jibril for 14 years until the whole of the Quran is written. And Jibril comes to him in different forms. The Quran tells us that sometimes he comes as like a Bedouin, a man from the desert, all sort of mysterious, with those cool wrappings around his head. Sometimes he is in the appearance of just what is described as an amazingly attractive man who the women cannot resist. He's just, Jibril is walking along and all the women are sort of following him and fainting and swooning. But on a couple of occasions, Muhammad, may peace be upon him, gets to see Jibril in his real state. And he is described as having 600 wings. 600! And they are so big, and he is so big, that it blots out the earth from east to west. So his wings, these 600, now that's greedy, Fiona, yeah? These 600 wings, they spread out so far, you cannot see the horizons on either side. You know, they go round the planet, these humongous wings. Brenner says that would hamper flying somewhat. I don't know. I mean, he's this great big thing of just massive size. There's an angel in the Quran that's described as, when asked how big the angels are, one of the replies is that you could spend your life walking. You could walk for your life from the ear of an angel to the shoulder of an angel. That's how long it would take to travel that distance. So that tells us just how big the angels are. There is one angel which is described as having beautiful technicolor wings, hundreds of them, you know, greens, blues, pinks, whatever. And each wing has a mouth on the end of it, which continuously babbles along, just chatting, you know, just saying things. But each wing speaks with a different human language. So to come near this angel is to hear all the voices of the world just gabbling from its wings. I mean, yeah, brilliant descriptions. But the angels in Islam, they act the same or very similar to the angels in Christianity. They are messengers of Allah. But Allah, he doesn't talk to all the angels. Some of the angels he doesn't really interact with, whereas special angels like Jibreel, he does, and Michael, which is, you know, Michael. Michael comes down and will help Muhammad, may peace be upon him, in his battles, his physical warrior battles, to spread his religion and to bring Islam to the people. So all in all, the angels are pretty cool in Islam, even though some of their descriptions are really funky. Fiona wants rainbow wings. Yeah, you can have rainbow wings. Why not? I mean, just find an Islamic angel. They'll share, maybe, as long as you're good. You know, follow Quran. Now, before all those three religions that we just looked at, there was another religion, often seen as the first truly monotheistic religion in the world, and it's called Zoroastrianism. It's not a massively popular religion anymore, although there are thousands of people on the planet who practice it. It is a relatively small religion, but it comes out of Iran, out of Persia. If you know about the Persian kings, as I know some of you do, people like Cyrus and Xerxes and Darius, they were all Zoroastrians. But the idea is that there is one God, Ahura Mazda, and he is all good. And below him, he has his spenters, who are the angels. And there are many, many, many angels, many spenters, but then there are some specifically powerful ones. Kind of think of them as the archangels, I guess. You've just done arson. No, Fiona, if you've done arson, you're not going to get rainbow wings. Okay, you need to go put that fire out and say sorry to whatever you set on fire. Okay, go do that now. I'll wait. That's better. Thank you. That's it. So we've got, and I'm sorry if I butcher the names here, but we've got Kshathra Varaya, who is the angel that is connected to metals, gold, silver, tools, weapons, that kind of thing. And he also represents the covenant, the promise between God, Ahura Mazda, and humans. We have Asha Vashista, who is the angel or the spenter of fire and justice, shown in red there. We've got Vohumanya, who is the angel associated with domestic animals, everything from cows to dogs, which is why he's shown with a dog there. We've got Hurvatat, who is representative of the waters of life and healing. She's there in the blue. We've got Emaratat, who is the spenter of growing things, plants, and wild animals too, nature in all its greenery. We'll skip Spenter Manu for a second, but then you've got Spenter Armet, who is representative of goodness and the earth. So yeah, she's pretty cool too. Now, the big difference here you may have noticed is that angels in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are all male. Our Zoroastrians seem to have male and female ones. And at the top of them is Spenta Mainyu, who is like, I suppose, like a seraphim. He is God's, Ahura Mazda's right-hand angel, all about truth and justice and goodness and light, kind of the leader of the other Spentas. So we can see how this idea may well have been taken on by the Jewish people and then the Christians and the Muslims. The idea that there are these divine beings who are not God, but have godly powers, and how they represent different things and have different duties, whether it's metal or fire or earth or whatever. Yeah. Now, interestingly, the Zoroastrians, their angels are very similar to Hindu gods and goddesses. Aisha Vasista, the Spenta of fire, is very similar to Agni, the Hindu god of fire. And we think, at least historians think, that what happened was that the Aryan people, the first people who came down from somewhere in the north, down into Iran, half of them, they kind of split. Half came to Iran and became Zoroastrians, one god, lots of angels. The other half split and went down to India and became Hindus. And they kept the same characters almost, but in India they became gods, and in Iran they became angels. And that's the big sort of religious split that leads to the Western religions of Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and the other religions of the East, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism eventually, although Sikhism's interesting because that's a recombination of the West and the East. Ooh. How do you spell the god's name? Ahura Mazda. Here we are. I'll write it up here. Ahura Mazda. It's all one word. I don't know why I gave it a capital M there, but there you are. Ahura Mazda is the god. Now, we also see in Zoroastrianism the main theme of angels coming out. And the main theme is that they are fighters against evil. All angels are in a constant battle between good and evil. Ahura Mazda is against Ahriman. Ahriman is what we might call the devil today. He's some kind of devilish character. Now, Ahura Mazda, he has his Spentas. He has his angels to fight for him, whereas Ahriman has his divas, his evil demons who fight for him. And in Zoroastrianism, everything is about the battle between truth and goodness and lies and evil. And the two are constantly clashing. And we see that brought through in Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Often the angels are warriors against demons. More on that in a second. Oh, I've got to hurry up. Got to hurry up. No, my screen's stuck. Okay, so if we're going to get a little bit more philosophical about angels, one of the important things about them is that they don't have free will. They're not like humans. They may look like humans when they're in human form. They may even have a similar strength to humans, a la the wrestling angel. But they have no choice over their own actions, or at least most of the time they don't. The Shia Muslims, they will suggest that angels do have free will, or at least some free will, but they always choose to be good. So it kind of makes no difference. They're always nice. But angels, that's the big difference between them and people. An angel cannot disobey God. If God says go over there and jump up and down on one leg, then the angel will do it. If God says murder is wrong, then angels don't murder. They don't have a choice. They don't think about it. They don't have a little sit down and a meeting and say, hey, should we do what God says today? Yeah. No, they just do it. That's what they do. That's what they are. And so in some ways, they're like this little angel here. They're machines. They're robots. They are, the mechanical servants of God. Bray asked, who is the lady with the cool sword? This is Uriel, and he is a man. He's just got long hair, but it is a very cool sword. So we see the difference between angels and humans right at the very beginning of the Bible, or the Torah, or the Quran, whichever one you want to read. We've got Adam and Eve. They're in the It looks like he has breasts. I don't know. Let me see. I mean, medieval artists here. I see what you mean. He does have a little bit of a chest there, but it might just be because his strangely armored torso. I don't know why you would just armor the torso. Seems odd. I'd go for a bit more armor or less because I'm an angel. What do I care? Yeah. But in the story, Adam and Eve, they are put down into the Garden of Eden, and God tells them, famously, you can do what you want, but don't eat that fruit. In comes the devil, who is, well, potentially the devil. It's never really said it's the devil. Could just be a naughty snake. The snake comes into the garden and persuades Adam and Eve to break that rule. And they do. They go to the tree and they eat the fruit. Now, an angel would never do that. God can say to the angel, hey, don't do it, guys. And the angels will be like, cool, yeah, I won't do it. And right there, all the excitement comes out of everything, doesn't it? I mean, there's no real problem. So there's a theory that I have about God and humans and angels. Now, if we imagine for a minute that we are God, you are God, okay? And you're surrounded, this is before we've created humans, you're surrounded by angels. Anything you say, they do, okay? Yeah, Fiona, you can be God for a minute. Just imagine. Now, if you are surrounded by angels that do everything you say, then there must be no real feeling of love there. Yeah? If you think, imagine that you wanted to find a husband or wife. Yeah? So you go out and you do what people do to find husbands and wives. I don't know. Search for them in the long grass. I don't know, hang on, that's Pokemon. Yeah, whatever. You find yourself someone that you really like, a man or a woman, doesn't really matter. And you capture them in a big net. Yeah, you tie them up, you drag them back to the church, you force them to get married to you. And for the rest of your life, you said, you force them to do whatever you want. Now, even if you're really good at that, being a horrible slave master, I don't know where this is going. I do know where this is going. Go with me. You would always know, even if the person you had picked was a brilliant actor and pretended that they loved you, maybe your first commandment to them is, you must pretend that you love me and you must act like you love me at all times. And they do it. You would always know that they don't really love you because it's not out of their own choice. It's out of compellment. They're being compelled to love you. Yeah. So, yeah, Brea says she thought angels were meant to love God, and they do. But how much free will do they have in that? They have to love God because they have to do what God says. So if God says, love me, they love him. And that must be a very empty feeling for God. Imagine being surrounded by people who love you, but you know that they don't really love you. They only love you because you force them to. That's not cool. So God creates something else. He creates humans. And the big change that he gives humans is he gives them the possibility not to love him. And then he hopes that they will love him. So why does he put the tree in the garden? Because he wants them to be good and he wants them to respect him. But at the same time, he has to give them the potential to disobey his orders. And then, and only then, will he be loved. I mean, it must be very lonely being cosmic and being the greatest thing in all of the universe, especially if you're just surrounded by people who are little machines who are programmed to love you. And of course, the humans, they keep messing up. Adam and Eve mess up. They go against his rules. And so he kicks them out of the garden. Sometime later, he is sick of humans again. They're not giving him respect. They're not giving him love. So he floods the entire world and kills them all, except for Noah and his family. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah aren't following his rules, so he firebombs them. Over and over again, God has to grapple with these. It sounds like he has anger issues. He just wants love. Of course he wants love, because love is God and God is love. But what is love if there's no choice, no freedom? The angels, they can love him, but it's not true love. But humans who decide to love him, even though they have the option not to, that's true love. And that's worth having. Ooh. What about if a human don't want to be a male or female? Would that make someone an angel? No, so I suppose with gender, I mean, angels are not gendered, like I said right at the start. They're always shown in the Western tradition as male, but they're technically not. They don't reproduce. They don't have loving relationships, except maybe with our Nephilim. So, we can call them male, but it's kind of like God himself. There's no real gender attached there, I suppose. Yeah. And Brea says it must be even worse when humans find true love with each other, but not God. Yeah, I mean, think of all the humans in the world who just don't care about God, or even worse, don't believe in him. Or even worse than that, they do believe in him, but they don't like him. That's horrible. But of course, God has to put the naughty humans down, because otherwise he would never experience that true feeling of love, the feeling of love that someone gives you when they are not forced to do it. No, Fiona. No, don't tell him that. He's going to get really sad. No, Lupa chooses to dislike God. No. Oh, dear. So maybe that's the real difference between humans and angels. Angels, they all love God, but they have no choice. Humans, some of them love God, but it's out of choice. So surely that's way more valuable to God than a creature that just does what he says. Yeah. Lupa, I don't think God's homophobic and sexist. I mean, it's not as if he makes all his angels male. I mean, yeah. I don't know. There's far too much to unpack there for the next 9 minutes. But there you are. That's my theory. My theory is that God made humans because, as wonderful and as powerful as angels are, they cannot truly love him, whereas humans can. Now, you may think that's a nonsense theory, but I quite like it. It makes them well, but they wear this is true. He makes them male and they wear dresses. So yeah, maybe that's okay. Maybe he's just trying to, cover all the bases there. Lupa says he claims to love all people, but if in Christianity you go to hell if you don't love him. Yes, but then there's different interpretations of hell. And that's a nice segue into when angels go bad, because angels do go bad, or they have gone bad in the past. The Christian belief is that there are fallen angels. That's right, Lupa. And of course, the original fallen angel was Lucifer. Boo, hiss. Now, this one's always hard for me to get my head around, and I've read and I've listened to lots of different Christian interpretations of this. I'm still not quite understanding, but Lucifer was once one of the main angels of Christianity, of God, yeah? Some say he's a seraphim, others say he's a principality, some say he's an archangel. I mean, it's hard to tell. But Lucifer, he turns against God. He turns evil. He decides to start the war in heaven. A third of all of the angels join him. So we have 2/3 of the angels who are good and 1/3 who are bad. Now, this would suggest that in some way, either Lucifer found free will in order to be able to rebel against God, which of course goes against the nature of angels, or, which is maybe a slightly more disturbing idea, God intended and told Lucifer to fight against him because, angels have to do what God says. So I've never quite had that explained to me. I mean, I've had it explained to me by lots of different people. Some Jehovah's Witnesses came around a few years ago. We had a good old cup of tea, and they tried to explain it to me. In their form of Christianity, they told me that around my house right now, as we were sipping our tea, there were angels and demons battling. We can't see them, but they're everywhere. They're just flying around in the sky, just charging each other eternally, just battling in our, in a dimension that we can't see, which is quite a cool idea. But I still don't fully understand how Lucifer became bad in the first place. But the idea is that Lucifer turns bad and is then punished. He is defeated by God, who hurls him down to the ground. He hits the earth and he is embedded in it and trapped in hell. Ooh. So often we think of Lucifer as being, the commander of hell or something. He's not. He's the original prisoner. And he's as trapped as everyone else in hell. He is tortured and, according to Dante from the 14th century, he is frozen in ice up to his waist, so he can't move, but he's always cold, and he just rages and roars the whole time. Do they steal socks in this battle? That would explain where they all go. Maybe, yeah, maybe the angelic wars are all about socks in some way. That's a good theory, Brea. um, so, no, Fiona, no, I've seen that video. So the angel, or ex-angel Lucifer, is now just a prisoner, a terrible creature who can let its power out. So although its physical form, or some kind of its physical form, is trapped in hell, it can send out tendrils of itself, whether in the form of a snake or a person or an idea. Satan, the angel, cannot, still cannot go against God in some ways. One of the more interesting parts of the Bible is the book of Job, where that whole book is about a bet that God and the devil have. We don't see the devil very often in the Bible, but we do there. And in the book of Job, the devil challenges God and says, hey, I bet I can mess up Job. I bet I can destroy his life and stop him believing in you. And God says, nah, you couldn't do that. But go ahead, do what you want to Job. We'll see if he gives in. And so the devil, he destroys Job. He kills all his family, kills all his animals, burns his house down, gives him a terrible illness where he's covered in boils and sores and pain. And Job is just lying on the floor in a ball of pain and misery, just sort of angry, really angry. Poor Job. poor Job. It's all right. It's got a happy ending. And then God but Job never gives up. He never says that God doesn't exist. Instead, he just gets really angry at God. He says, I hate you, God, which is different from I don't believe in you, God. And he gets so angry that by the end of the book, God has to come down and he gets told off by Job. Job really lays into him. What have you done? This is a terrible thing you have done to me. Stop it. Leave me alone. I really don't like you. I'm going to tell all my friends or whatever. And so God relents and God restores Job. He brings him back to health. He builds him a bigger house, gets him more cows than he had originally, gives him a new wife, gives him new children, because they're replaceable. And it all works out all right. Which is one of the first few times in the Bible where we really see God get told off by a human. But the devil's there. The devil can mess Job up, but he can't directly kill him. He doesn't really have that power. It's God who has to, physically kill the family. The devil can't do it. He's lost that power to interact with humanity, but he can get inside your head. He can persuade you to, I don't know, get addicted to drugs or punch an old person or whatever he can do. Yeah. Fiona, in the story of Job, the children are replaced. That does not mean that in general children are replaceable. Okay. Or wives or cows. Okay. I'm not on the side of the devil here, just so you know. And so we don't have long left, but just a quick look at some modern representations of angels, because the stuff that we've heard about so far maybe doesn't really fit with how we see angels. For a start, if you Google search angels, the vast majority of the pictures are female. Yeah, I mean, nowadays, people just assume that angels are female. They don't really get the whole just male thing. And I guess that's partly because of our medieval artists and stuff would often show the angels with long hair and, robes. And I suppose maybe that's become interpreted as just femininity. I don't know. Maybe people just think that women are more attractive and therefore angels should be girls. Or maybe it's the idea that angels have, we don't have the angels as warriors quite so much nowadays. People don't think of angels as, fighting demons and joining battles. They generally think of angels as being soft and motherly and looking after you like as if you were a child. And maybe that fits with the femininity better. Our cherubs are quite different. Instead of many winged monstrosities with many heads and eyes all over their wings, we get babies. They kind of become connected to Eros or Cupid from ancient religion. So we get these cute little chubby babies, which we often see, especially in Renaissance art, naked little children who go around spreading God's message. Yeah, that's it, Fiona. It's a very basic and wrong assumption, isn't it? Long hair plus dress equal girl. But I imagine that's where it kind of came from. I don't know. Um, it'd be an interesting study to see how angels have changed from male to female over the years and exactly why. I assume scholars have done that. Um, I doubt I'm the first one to notice it. And then we've got our little Christmas decorations, of course, usually female as well. But the angels, they tend to guard our Christmas trees from, I guess, arsonists like Fiona is the main thing they're protecting from there. I don't know. So hopefully, guys, you've enjoyed our little tour of angels. I have. And there's plenty more there to research into. I mean, we've really just scratched the surface. I mean, you can go and look at angels in different religions, read different stories about them. They're kind of fun. Yeah, naked little children going around spreading the message of God. That's a cherub. Yeah, nice. All right, thanks, guys. I'll see you in a couple of weeks with Mr. Aristotle. All right, thank you very much. Goodbye.